I think we can get started. And yeah. First of all, thanks everyone for being here. I'm Fabiola. I'm one of the co-founders of SecFix. And yeah, today we're here to talk about ISO 27001 for FinTechs. What is ISO and why do FinTechs need it? It's going to be a very, very interesting talk. We have very insightful tips for you guys. And also when it comes to pen testing, there's also going to be a little bit of insights into that on how, if you start with ISO, what are the next steps? How can you enforce your security in the organization? So we have Gregory, my co-founder here from SecFix, and also Diogo from Blaze, who will give you more insights into that. But yeah, first of all, just a quick intro about the agenda. Yeah, first of all, we're going to give you a little bit of insights into ISO 27001 for FinTechs, especially Gregory here has built a very nice use case, a real use case on how a FinTech got certified. So basically, what were the tips? What were the learnings? Also, what were the fuck ups that they did in order to get certified, and how they actually leverage automation to get started. We will also have Diogo as well, who will talk about the challenges and benefits of Blaze getting certified. It's been definitely a change as well when it comes to ISO certification in the sales process. So he will definitely give a little bit of insights into that. And after each talk, we're also going to have a Q&A. So in case you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, just a couple of rules before we start. You're muted by default, but if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. We will record this and also distribute it to everyone afterwards in case you want to have the content as well. And yeah, afterwards, there's also the possibility to talk to us, to ask any questions that you have. So yeah, these, as I said, are our speakers. Gregory, my co-founder, he is the CTO of SecFix. And yeah, he's hopefully today here to give you very nice insights and tips when it comes to the technical requirements as well. And Diogo, he is an offensive cybersecurity expert for Blaze. So they are experts in information security, and they focus on penetration testing. And yeah, they're also our partners. So yeah, we are super happy that Diogo is joining here today. And that's basically it. So I will pass it on to Gregory so he can give us some nice insights about a use case for FinTechs.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks Fabiola for being there, not working on the product today. And of course, happy to see Diogo as always. Hope to have another real life event soon with Blaze, hopefully in part in our comedy club, maybe with beer and pizza. So quick disclosure, maybe somebody wants to also get there. Yeah, and here today I built a very interesting use case of a fintech scale up from Germany. And that's a real story how they were going through ISO 27001. And yeah, what came up, how was their journey like, what kind of fuck ups they had, and quick learnings that I would like to present to you. So I will share my screen. Let me know if you see anything. Just give me a second.
We don't see it yet, though.
Yeah, I guess. Just give me a sec. I have a bit of an issue right now. Okay, Okay. I'm ready.
Too many tabs open, probably.
Yep. No, we don't work with PowerPoint a lot, so in product. Yeah, but here you go. So I hope everyone can see my screen. So yeah, this story, I called it from 0 to 1 or to 27,001. Yeah, it's about the FinTech who got certified. Just a quick tip, that's a real use case, but we changed the name of people and companies to fictive, to honor the privacy, and slightly simplify the timeline for you to be able to understand it better. What is it about? So let me tell you about FinCo. FinCo is one of the leading open banking startups in Europe. It gives safety and in kind of easy way to users to connect to their bank account or to an application. They're based in Germany. However, they have also some people outside of Germany. So they have 81 people right now in the company, but in Germany and also like a bit more outside, 110 worldwide. They're in the Series A stage, about to start with Series B. Their funding is $21 million. So they're a fast-growing company. And the tech stack is Google Workspace, GCP, GitHub, and Jira. So you might think, how did it go? So why did they actually need the certification? So that's the thing. FinCo was actually negotiating with a big German bank called Sparkasse. And sometimes Sparkasse does deals with startups and gets them as partner. But here's the catch. FinCo actually needed to get the ISO 27001 certification to get this deal closed. Of course, they knew only that the ISO 27001 is a huge framework. For you, it's just kind of a stamp on your company organization that you actually follow security best practices as a company and you can be trusted. And yeah, oh, by the way, also it reduces the risk of personal liability for CEOs. So FinCo went shopping. You know, they would go to Google and then they found out there is PwC, a huge consulting company. They usually offer also ISO 27001 implementation consulting. So they got an offer of 100,000 euro dollars. Now, well, doesn't matter at the moment. Yeah, and they basically would provide them for this money some consulting and Word files, a lot of Word files. They would need to adjust basically to their company process, like things like how do you usually onboard new employees. But I will tell you about it a bit later. So, but there was another catch with PwC. The suggested timeline was a bit off. So you can sometimes be faster, but they were suggested 12 months for the implementation timeline. The bigger your company is, well, the higher is the effort as well. And yeah, for FinCo, 12 months was actually quite a lot of time, as you can imagine. For the Series A startup, it's basically maybe you won't exist next year, maybe you will be Series C. You never know. And maybe why does it take so much time? Well, there is quite a lot of preparation involved. Just get an ISO 27001 this old way means you need to create about 20 policy documents, only mandatory 20, yeah, and then they're on top, some of them. And these policy templates that you get, they are not really written for startups. So they're written for mid-size companies, mid-size enterprises that maybe work more kindly with paper or Word files and PDFs. So they're usually written for you in Word. So basically means if you implement them, all the rules of your security, how your company should work, it means you need to come back to them and you need to update them manually every time. And also, like, if you want to kind of save the proof that you actually leave this rules that you created in those policies, you probably create some screenshots. Yeah, and that you basically end up making screenshots of all encrypted buckets you have. You need to check them manually every now and then, and you need to screen them to kind of create screenshots again and again and again. If you're committed also to have two-factor authentication on critical tools like Google Workspace, maybe Notion, if you use it a lot, then, well, you have another problem that you cannot really enforce them. You need also to screen every time to all of my employees actually use this kind of control, or is it just something I written in my policy document? So that's a big issue because once you commit it, auditor will go through it in the stage 1 audit and stage 2 audit, and you might get a major inconformity and you will not pass the audit. So that's why this process is super long and can take up to 12 months. But CTO FinCo thought, well, we're a cloud native company. We're kind of smart guys here, a lot of techies. Maybe we can use our modern tech stack to accelerate it. And that's how they found us. Back in the day, we put something on 9 months ago, we put something on LinkedIn for the first time. Hey, we have a product online, and we were solving this issue. And yeah, we got the interest of CTO. And they thought, okay, they can actually put our security and compliance in autopilot. You might want to know how this kind of stuff works. Yeah, it's basically, we create many connections to the tools that they used. I present here AWS, but we connected to GCP in their case. And it would generate automated checklist on many tools. That's how it's all started for them. After some time, so we figured out a specific timeline. So here's how our timeline looked like. We were able to do the entire preparation and evidence gathering within the 6 to 8 weeks. That was a very different timeline from what you've seen in the beginning. Imagine from nothing, you can actually get compliant in 6 weeks. It's pretty nice. So that's what we did with them. And after that, we already scheduled the stage 1 audit and stage 2 audits. So the whole journey took actually less than 5 months. And how the preparation looked like, let's start just very quick thing to show you how exactly this kind of journey looked like for FinCo. So it's usually we do scoping because you need to understand what part of the product or company are you certifying. We set up a channel, Slack channel to communicate with each other, and a project plan for 2 months. And this is something very unique. Very little, few numbers of company would set up a real project plan for you that you can follow, but we do that. So as the first step in the preparation, we did the scoping. And as a part of scoping, we focused on German company. We usually do it in the call, and it still requires human touch. So all of FinCo products, like banking aggregation tool and income verification tool, so also process for human resources, security, data management, communications, and supply chain, you might know as vendor management, they were in scope for them. Those are processes that are very important for them to show in their certification. And we did also 2 gap assessments. It's something we do to actually make sure that you secure, and not only in your policies, but also in reality. So we found out that they didn't use any server scanners and any password managers. So they actually started using those. We have a partnership with 1Password. So it was a very good deal for them. They started using 1Password now to implement this within the company. And they started to use nested server scanner. That's what we did. And then a very quick view on the preparation part of project plan. That's just something which we saw as a good practice for all the customers in the very beginning to align on the timeline, to understand where it's going to, and be sure that we will be compliant. So the customer will be compliant exactly when they want to be compliant. Of course, in this stage, Fabiola, for example, would usually make suggestion if it might take more time than the customer would think. So in case of FinCo, it was very fast. So we had to put the foot on the gas and do it very quickly. Then right afterwards, when you were already set up the plan, sorry for a lot of text. That was a last minute slide. I just wanted to make a very specific overview for you what actually happened in this preparation. So it all starts usually with policy templates. I will switch a bit back and forth here. We have a tool directly there. So we've written all the policy templates. Branko himself wrote these policy templates for startups. Why is it important? Well, because as I said before, when FinCo would approach the bigger consulting company, they would get more generic templates that do not cover many tools or processes for startups that are usually like very similar across different startups. And that's something we have, even with comments, like maybe if somebody wants to see more, just ping me afterwards. There are a lot of comments for startups in different industries. So it's easy to adjust, and we have the mapping to SOC 2, ISO 27001. So it's kind of easy to also look up if the auditor asks you for a specific standard. You're like, it's a part of my access management policy document. So that's the first thing that FinCo started with. They did it within 1.5 weeks. All the policy templates were created, adjusted order to their processes. We did some modifications of their security processes as well, of course, but the most of the things were already quite well organized. And why do you need it? Because there is another thing you need to do. You actually need to fill in your employees about this new policies. It's not just you write them and then it's enough. You actually need to implement them in the company, which means you need to train the employees. So that's why one of the next things we did is set up a compliant employee onboarding for them. And in our case, it includes installation of SecFix agent that monitors the compliance of employees. We did the SecFix awareness training, made sure that all the employees read documents, these new policies, and also accepted them in our platform. This is the way how you can do it, basically. Then security training, by the way, it's something we created together with Amazon in partnership. So I can tell you from entire audit preparation experience, everything that goes through employees, you need to count like 3 times more time because there is always somebody, might be in development department who didn't yet get on the platform. You might send them a couple of more reminders and it's not enough. So you need to be vigilant about that. So in case of FinCo, it was 1.5 weeks for the policies, but to actually get all the customers, like all the employees onboarded, trained for security awareness, that took a bit longer. Then there is a vendor management part that you usually need to do. The goal there, identify all the vendors that you use, and then really assess critical vendors. So in case of FinCo, I can tell you 2 of them were already Google Cloud and G Suite. Well, Google Cloud because production projects were there. The production is hosted on Google Cloud. And G Suite because you definitely need your identity provider to be very clean. And that's the thing that you're actually supposed to manage very well. Meaning suspend the users on time, delete accounts on time. You have to have figured out this process, how to, like, as a startup, probably some of your employees might leave in certain time. You need to make sure that you actually offboard them in the right way as well. Yeah, that's why those two definitely are critical, and then there are some other tools on top. One tool was very interesting. One vendor didn't have certification because, well, I don't know, they didn't focus on it. And then it was a bit a longer process. They needed to create a security questionnaire. Well, we already have one, so we provided one. And then the vendor is supposed to fill out the security questionnaire, which also took like 1 week, but they got this. And this is the only way how you can actually do the compliant vendor management for your audit. Okay, well, inventory management went very fast because it already was pre-filled from cloud assets directly. They just needed to add the owners. And yeah, then we have also our own additional evidence checklist that usually collected manually. For them, it included 45 checks. So they needed actually to go through different platforms as well and put some additional things on top. But that's all in all the experience. Then we went to the stage 1 phase when the FinCo was already ready. And in the very, very beginning, we provided them with 3 quotes. We already partners with 2, for example, and then we added some additional companies like Decker and BCI. So FinCo decided to do TÜV. They thought, okay, that's the only one we know. They stick to this one. There was a fuck up. Many people in the company speak English, but the assigned auditor was speaking only German. I mean, he was speaking English okay, but well, he preferred to speak German, so he actually stick to German during the audit with the management team. But unfortunately, they're the only people who spoke German, but the other team members not. And it was a bit difficult because they provided the entire documentation in English, in German later. So watch out for this if you have some like audit like this one. And also a bit of fuck up was this was a very old school auditor. He's schooled on BSI Grundschutz. It's a very like complex German auditing framework. So he was not really into cloud. And during audit, he focused on things he knew, like cables, Office, some questions for servers. So the result was audit was passed. There were some minor findings. FinCo will need to fix them in the next 12 months. And the learning, always ask your auditing company for auditor CVs. Also, if you get in pentest, you can, by the way, also ask for pentester CV or pentester profile, just as a side note. So yeah, always ask auditor for CVs. Maybe try to get several options to choose from. FinCo didn't really have time for that. Yeah, that's why I also try to actually request the audit in advance, well in advance, because usually if you schedule next month or in 2 or 3 months, usually it's like very limited offer that you have. Yeah, and by the way, since 2020, there are a lot of audits, stage 1 audits that are done remotely. You can ask your auditor to do it remotely and save your costs. Well, stage 2 audit happened 4 weeks later. For that, FinCo had already actually prepared the entire evidence that we went through over this 45 different checks, from like management review down to network diagrams. During this audit, auditor went through policies, asked for proof of statements. So it's actually where he really does checks if things that are in your policy documents apply. For example, like in these policies, it was stated employees review and accept policies. So he really wanted to know, hey, show me how they accepted the policies, or all the Windows machines have the antivirus installed, show me this. And they just showed it on the SecFix platform directly. It took about 2.5 days. there was a minor non-conformity, but FinCo will just solve it until the next audit. Very interesting thing about certificate that they learned. You might think that's all, but it's not. After stage 2 audit, it's not like you get directly next day the certificate. They send you, but usually within several days, a week, the kind of report that you need to conform. And yeah, only 6 weeks later, our auditor actually provided the stage 2 audit certification, and then that's kind of the date where the company FinCo officially became certified. By the way, watch out for holidays, because sometimes it can take longer if people get on holidays, especially from the auditor side. Well, quick learning, count at least 2 months to actually get the certificate. If you really need to provide like ad hoc something to investor, customer, partner, or maybe even German governmental entity like BaFin or BFAM for digital startups, you need to ask your auditor for attestment, letter of attestation, that's called. And this letter of attestation, they just write down that you're already in the process and please leave them alone. The only requirement for this letter is that you sign the offer with the auditor. So very easy. And after certification, actually next year you need to do surveillance audit. So we'll see what next year will bring to FinCo. But why do they actually decide to stay with SecFix now? As it's without us, they need to keep their Word and Excel files manually updated. Imagine how much work it is just if you use Kubernetes, for example, to update your entire inventory management. You might have in 1 month completely different set of instances, for example. While on SecFix, yeah, we have this seamless evidence collection. You need to monitor manually and run after controls every time. While without SecFix, well, if you use SecFix, basically it scales with you. You can add new tools. We're also constantly improving more integrations, adding more integrations, making your life a bit easier. Yeah, but I think the biggest benefit is that just employee onboarding is then cleaner this way. Yeah, it scales better. And then like very, very dramatic stats that 80% of startups who do their own ISO, they just don't finish it. So definitely talk to people who are experienced in this, or they end up crippling their ISMS, creating like very complex frameworks that they cannot really catch up with. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Grigory, for the very insightful presentation. That was, I think I got a very, very good overview of what the pain points for FinCo were, and especially this can be obviously not only related to FinTechs in general, but you can see here real examples of how startups are dealing with this. And I think this definitely helps to bring a lot of transparency to the whole process. I want to leave like a couple of minutes of room for questions. So if anyone wants to ask a question to Grigory, feel free to either write it in the chat or just unmute yourself and then ask him directly, whatever is best for you.
Yes, Sinhua has a question. Do you guys see it?
Yeah, thanks, Jean. So Sinja asks, do ISO 27001 auditors require IT technical knowledge?
Let me check. I can't see anything. Wait a sec.
Great. And it says if ISO 27001 auditors require IT technical knowledge.
Yeah, well, yes, no, actually, yeah, they need. The thing about being auditor itself, I think being auditor is a very different game than being implementer. So we can kind of help you implement ISO 27001 around the cloud controls. But being auditor means you just completed 5 days training to become the lead auditor. You can do it with any company. It takes 5 days, and then you stick, I think, for 1 year doing almost free audits to many companies on behalf of basically group or TÜV. And then afterwards, you actually, fit to do it based on practice. There is some technical knowledge required, but I've seen many non-technical people doing it, the audit itself. Usually, actually, the best implementers are operations managers. The CTO spend usually like just 5 to 10% of time doing ISO, and then 90% is catched up by operations manager.
Thank you, Gregory. And also, is there any other question? You're welcome. Let's see. All right, looks like it's pretty clear to everyone. That's really great to hear. Maybe Gregory, wait, okay, Rob wants to ask something. All right, Rob, we will wait for your question. Yeah, that's it. Okay, my company has offices around the world, but it's mostly remote. So I guess you want to know, like, is it difficult to get certified? Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe I can jump into that because
Yes.
I'm the one that is always just going through all of these legal topics with with the customers. And yeah, I mean, it will depend in the end in the scope. So I can tell you an example. We have a company that has the headquarters in Germany, and they also have subsidiaries in other countries like Poland or India, for example. So the best way on how to tackle this is that you either focus first on certifying just the headquarters, where normally all of the contracts are being done, right? So normally, if your company is in Germany, you normally hand out the contracts to other German companies or European companies through your headquarters. So sometimes it just makes more sense to start certifying the headquarter because it will make everything faster, and you won't have these requirements from a lot of customers. When they see, okay, your headquarters is certified, then it's already for them a huge proof that you are on the way to implement the security controls and for security. And then as a next step, you can also certify your other subsidiaries in case this is something that you would like to do. But then you don't have this huge scope and complexity of certifying a lot of companies at the same time, but rather you focus on one first, finish that one. You can go on with your daily sales cycle and so on. And then when you want to extend your scope to other subsidiaries, then you can do it as well. If you want to do it with all of them, yeah, it's difficult, but it's something that you can do. If you use automation tools, for example, like the ones we have, the most difficult part is probably the employee onboarding, because you have many employees in different subsidiaries. So it's difficult to control if they have done through the security awareness training and accepted all of the policies and so on. So having kind of like a centralized tool that can help you to do that, it's better.
If I may add, Fabiola, the benefit for you is definitely, if most of them are remote, you like in this kind of audits, you can just exclude then the physical controls for the offices, and that's also quite a lot of work to get this compliant. So if they're all remote, it's still kind of feasible. It's not like something like a Titanic for you. You can still solve it. Pretty neat.
You're welcome. All right, looking at the time, I will pass it on to our next speaker now. And there's always a bit of room for questions as well. If you want to put them right now in the chat, that's also fine, and we can go through them together. But now I will pass it on to Diogo, who is going to talk a little bit more about their experience getting certified with ISO, what benefits they had, and also, yeah, just in general, like how can pen tests also help you enforce security as well as a next step. So Diogo, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fabiola. I'm just gonna share here my presentation. Yeah, can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So yeah, first of all, thank you everyone for joining this webinar, and thank you to SecFix for inviting me and Blaze to be a part of it. So I just wanted to quickly give a bit of an overview of what is Blaze and what we do in the company. So we are experts in offensive cybersecurity. We mainly do penetration testing services, and our approach to it is to really test the security controls of a company. What we say is that we really like to do a real-life attack simulation to put to test not only the operational controls, but also the business logic of the applications that we're testing, to make sure that then we can help the companies reinforce their security and their readiness against real attacks. We are a global company, so we have offices a bit all over the world, and we deliver projects worldwide on various industries, being actually the financial industry, the one that we work the most with. So just for you to have an idea of the type of clients that we work with, we work from startups to enterprise clients. And as you can see in some of the logos, we have Santander, Penta, Bitstamp, Trade Republic, and others, other companies from the fintech sector as our clients. So today, I would like to talk about 3 different things. First, about the process of Blaze getting certified, then how the ISO certification had benefits for us, and at the end, end up with how we do pen testing for ISO 27001. So for us, as a pen testing company, security is at the core of what we do. And it's very important that the data that we have from our clients is also secure. We hold a lot of information about the vulnerabilities that the platforms or systems that our clients have, about the vulnerabilities that they have in their platforms. So there was just a bit of noise here. So we hold a lot of sensitive information about the vulnerabilities of our clients. So for us to have secure systems is of great importance. For us, getting ISO 27001 certified was a bit more complex because SecFix was not around at the time. So we did it the normal way, hire a consultancy agency, and they came to us with a bunch of Word documents that had to be filled manually. And as Gregory mentioned before, the process was very difficult, very manually done. So a lot of hard labor, and it took us around 12 months to actually finish the certification. But talking about the things that we learned during the process is, for us, the main thing, and that's why it's highlighted in the presentation, is that for us, we think that ISO 27001, the goal should be to create a robust security, not only passing an audit, because the main goal should be to get secured at the end of the day, and not just have the stamp. And for that to happen, it's important to change processes within the company to make it secure by default, and then certification will be then a proof that security controls are in place, in that the company is working towards building a robust security. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that by getting certified, you don't immediately say, okay, I'm secure from now on. It's important that the processes, and more importantly, the people within the company, starting from the top management, really need to make sure that these processes are in place and that they are followed on a daily basis. It's not just like, okay, let's prepare this, the auditor comes, okay, we passed the certification, now we can forget about it. So we found that it's really important for actual change within the company to happen. Also, another point in regards to that is that if if the change doesn't really happen within the company, what can happen a lot of times is that you get certified, and then when you need to do renew your certification and do another audit, everything that you've done before is outdated, and basically you have to go through the same process again. So it's a lot of work that you need to put again into the process of maintaining certification. So from the start, it's very important to get the mindset that, okay, we're going to implement these policies, but these policies are going to guide our daily operations. So what were for us the benefits of ISO 27001? As I mentioned, for us, security is very important. But one thing for us is to say, okay, we have security controls in place, but another is to say to our clients, okay, we have ISO 27001. So that's already an enhanced trust in the way we interact with the clients. And we've noticed that since getting the certification, it's much easier to work not only with enterprise clients, because a lot of times, like for them, everything that is done, like pen test certificates, security certificates, for them, it's really important. But also with startups, because this kind of certification is very popular. A lot of startups, if they're not doing it at the moment, they are already planning to do somewhere in the future to get certified with ISO. So for us, it was a major competitive advantage. Last but not least, also we work a lot with companies that themselves are getting certified. Pen test is not really a mandatory part of ISO 27001, but is highly recommended. So when a company comes to us and says, okay, I would like to do a pen test as part of my certification process, it's really reassuring for them that we also have the certification, we've been through it, we can advise them on the best way to go forward. So as I said, pen testing is not mandatory, but it is highly recommended. From our experience, most of the companies that begin with ISO 27001 and they're going through this process, they see ISO 27001 as the first step towards building a security program. And pen testing, it's a very good way to put the security controls into test, because we do a real life attack simulation. We really try to find the vulnerabilities that are critical to the organization. And then at the end of the day, we provide with actionable advice so they can go out, they can fix them. And then at the end of the day, we retest to make sure that all the vulnerabilities that were found were corrected and fixed by the company. So for most of the clients that we work with, that they are going through this process, this is the first pen test that they do. And then pen testing becomes also part of their routine. Usually they start with, it depends on the industry, but usually they start with an annual pen test, and then it starts becoming more regular as the company evolves and also as the requirements for security also grow.